The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep rumbling sound that echoed through the hall. Ambassador Lisa Carter walked inside with steady steps, her black diplomatic uniform crisp and clean. Behind her walked 3 other humans, all wearing the same dark blue clothes that marked them as Earth's representatives. The chamber was huge, bigger than any stadium on Earth, with seats rising up in circles like an ancient theater. 47 different alien species filled those seats. Some looked almost human, but with different colored skin or extra arms. Others were so strange that Lisa had needed months to learn how to tell them apart. The Zephyrians sat in the highest seats, their tall gray bodies and glowing yellow eyes showing everyone who really controlled this place. The Andromedans were next to them, their blue skin shimmering under the chamber's lights. Lower down sat the smaller species, the ones who had to follow orders from the bigger powers. High Arbiter Vexthan stood up from his golden chair. He was the leader of the Zephyrian Empire and the most powerful being in the galaxy. His voice came through speakers all around the chamber, deep and cold like winter wind. "Ambassador Carter of Earth," he said, "you come before this council at a time of great importance. The Krillian horde grows stronger each day. They have destroyed 3 more worlds since our last meeting. The galaxy needs unity now more than ever." Lisa stopped in the center of the chamber floor. A spotlight came down on her, making her feel very small in the huge room. She could feel thousands of alien eyes watching her. Some showed curiosity, others showed anger or fear. Many showed the same look she had seen too often lately. They thought humans were weak. "The Council has been very patient with Earth," Vexthan continued. "We have protected your trade routes. We have shared our technology. We have even helped you fight the Krillian attacks on your outer colonies. But patience has its limits," another alien stood up. This one was Admiral Kethvar from the Andromedan fleet. His blue skin was darker than most of his kind, and scars covered his face from old battles. "Human ships are too slow," he said with anger in his voice. "Human weapons are too weak. Every time we send you to fight the Krillians, we lose more ships because we have to protect you. This cannot continue." More voices joined in from around the chamber. The Valorians complained about human trade practices. The Centauri said humans were too violent and caused problems in peaceful sectors. The Draconis spoke about how human colonies used too many resources. It went on, each species listing their complaints about Earth. Lisa waded through it all. She had heard these same words many times before. The aliens thought they knew everything about humanity. They thought humans were just another weak species that needed protection. They had no idea how wrong they were. Vexthan raised his hand and the chamber became quiet. "The Council has made a decision," he said. "Earth must choose. You can accept our protection and follow our rules, or you can face the galaxy alone. But you cannot continue as you have been." A holographic display appeared in the air above Lisa's head. It showed a long list of demands that made her stomach feel sick. Humans would have to give up their military fleet. They would have to let Zephyrian scientists change their genes to make them less aggressive. Human colonies would be governed by council administrators. Earth itself would become a protected world where humans could live, but not make important decisions. "You want us to become pets?" Lisa said. Her voice was calm, but everyone in the chamber could hear the anger underneath. "We want you to survive," Vexthan replied. "The Krillian horde will destroy Earth if we do not protect you. They have already attacked 6 of your colonies. How many more humans must die before you accept reality?" Lisa looked around the chamber. She saw the same expression on almost every alien face. They really believed they were helping humanity. They thought they were being kind by offering to take care of humans like children. The idea that humans might not need their help never entered their minds. "And if we refuse?" Lisa asked. "Then the Council will have no choice but to treat Earth as a hostile world," Admiral Kethvar said. "We cannot allow any species to threaten galactic peace. Your people's violent nature is well known. Without proper guidance, you could become as dangerous as the Krillians themselves." Lisa almost laughed at that. The aliens were so afraid of human violence that they wanted to control it, but they had never seen what humans could really do when they stopped holding back. The past 3 years of fighting the Krillians had been practice for humanity, a chance to test their weapons and learn about their enemies. The Council thought humans were struggling to survive, but the truth was very different. "I need to contact Earth before I can give you an answer," Lisa said. "No," Vexthan said firmly. "You will decide now. The Council has waited long enough for humanity to see reason, accept our protection, or face the consequences. Lisa reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small silver device about the size of her hand. She walked to the center of the chamber floor and placed it on the ground. Every alien in the room leaned forward to see what she was doing. "Then I give you our answer," Lisa said. She pressed a button on the device and stepped back. The device began to glow with a bright white light. Then a voice filled the chamber, speaking in perfect galactic standard but with a human accent that every translator could understand. It was President Jake Morrison speaking from Earth. "People of the galaxy," the recorded message began. "I am President Morrison of Earth. For 3 years, humanity has been a member of the Galactic Council. We have tried to work within your system. We have followed your rules. We have accepted your guidance even when we disagreed with it." The chamber was completely silent now. Even Vexthan had sat down to listen. "But today the Council has asked us to give up everything that makes us human," Morrison's voice continued. "They want us to surrender our independence, our right to defend ourselves, and our future as a free species. They offer us safety in exchange for slavery. They promise us protection if we agree to become pets." Lisa watched as understanding began to dawn on alien faces around the chamber. This was not a negotiation. This was a farewell. "Therefore, effective immediately, Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council. We thank you for the opportunity to participate, but we choose to walk our own path. Humanity will no longer accept orders from those who see us as children to be managed, rather than equals to be respected." The message gave coordinates to a star system that most of the aliens had never heard of. Morrison invited any species that wanted to maintain friendship with humanity to meet them there for future discussions. "We wish you well in your struggles with the Krillian horde," Morrison concluded. "Perhaps you will learn what we already know. True strength comes not from controlling others, but from standing together as equals. Good luck." The device went dark and the chamber erupted in chaos. Dozens of aliens began shouting at once in different languages. Some demanded immediate military action against Earth. Others wanted to know more about the coordinates Morrison had given. A few just sat in stunned silence. Lisa picked up her device and walked toward the chamber doors. No one tried to stop her. They were all too shocked by what they had just heard. As she reached the exit, Vexthan's voice boomed across the chamber. "You cannot do this," he shouted. "Earth needs the Council. Without our protection, the Krillians will destroy every human world within a year." Lisa turned back one last time. She looked up at the High Arbiter with a smile that made several nearby aliens step back in fear. There was something in that smile that they had never seen before. It was the look of someone who knew a secret that would change everything. "Maybe," she said simply. "Or maybe you need us more than we need you. I guess we will find out." Then Lisa Carter, last ambassador from Earth to the Galactic Council, walked out of the chamber and never looked back. 3 months had passed since Ambassador Lisa Carter walked out of the Galactic Council chamber. The Council had spent those months arguing about what to do next. Some wanted to send warships to force Earth back into line. Others suggested economic blockades to make humans beg for readmission. A few wise voices warned that humanity might be more dangerous than they appeared. But these voices were quickly shouted down. Admiral Kethvar of the Andromedan fleet commanded the expedition that would travel to the coordinates President Morrison had given. His fleet consisted of 12 ships, enough to show strength but not enough to look like an invasion force. The Council wanted to appear reasonable when they offered humanity one last chance to return to the fold. The journey took 2 weeks through hyperspace. When Kethavar's fleet emerged at the designated coordinates, every crew member stared at their screens in disbelief. The star system contained 5 planets, all glowing with the lights of massive cities. Space stations bigger than any in Council territory orbited each world. Hundreds of ships moved between the planets in organized traffic patterns that spoke of advanced coordination systems. "This is impossible," said Commander Zara of the Council ship Harmony. "Intelligence reports show that humans only have 43 colonies and maybe 200 ships total." Kethavar studied the readings with growing concern. The energy signatures coming from the human installations were unlike anything he had seen before. Their power output exceeded even the great shipyards of the Zephyrian homeworld. "Send a message," he ordered. "Tell them we come in peace to discuss renewed relations." The response came immediately, as if the humans had been expecting them. A voice speaking perfect galactic standard filled the bridge. "Admiral Kethvar, you are welcome in human space. Please follow the guidance beacons to New Terra Station." Captain Alex Reed will meet with you there. Guidance beacons appeared on their screens, forming a path through the system that avoided the heaviest traffic areas. As they flew deeper into human territory, the Council crews saw wonders that challenged everything they thought they knew about human capabilities. Massive mining platforms stripped asteroids clean in minutes using technology that seemed to bend space itself. Terraforming ships turned barren rocks into garden worlds with atmospheric processors that worked faster than anything in the galaxy. New Terra Station was a miracle of engineering. The structure was 20 kilometers long and shaped like a giant wheel spinning slowly in space. Its hull was made from materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, giving the station an almost ghostly appearance. Docking bays opened to receive the Council ships with mechanical precision that spoke of advanced artificial intelligence systems. Captain Alex Reed met them in the station's main conference room. He was a tall man with graying hair and calm blue eyes that seemed to see everything. Behind him stood Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a woman whose reputation for scientific brilliance was known even in Council space, though they had thought she was just another human researcher working with primitive equipment. "Welcome to New Terra," Reed said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I hope your journey was comfortable." Admiral Kethvar tried to maintain his composure despite the shock of what he had seen. "Captain Reed, the Council is confused by what we have observed here. Our intelligence suggested that humanity possessed limited resources and technology. Yet this system shows capabilities that exceed most Council member worlds. Intelligence can be misleading," Dr. Rodriguez said pleasantly. "Perhaps your sources were not as reliable as you believed." Reed gestured toward the conference room's massive windows, which showed the bustling activity of the system beyond. "Would you like a tour? I think it might help explain some things." The tour began at the nearest planet, which the humans called New Earth. The world was covered in cities that gleamed like jewels, connected by transportation systems that moved people and goods at incredible speeds. The Council delegation saw factories that produced materials by manipulating matter at the atomic level. They watched ships being built in space docks that used gravitational fields to shape metal like clay. "How long have you had these capabilities?" Commander Zara asked in amazement. "The basic principles were developed about 30 years ago," Reed replied casually. "We've been refining them ever since." Admiral Kethvar felt his blood turn cold. 30 years ago? But first contact with Earth was only 15 years ago. "That's correct," Dr. Rodriguez said. "We had quite a lot of time to prepare before we made ourselves known to the galaxy." The implications hit Kethvar like a physical blow. Humanity had possessed advanced technology for decades before joining the Council. They had deliberately appeared weak and primitive to avoid attracting unwanted attention. Everything the Council thought they knew about human capabilities had been a carefully constructed lie. The next stop on the tour was a military installation that made Kethvar's hearts skip a beat. Hundreds of warships filled the orbital yards, each one larger and more advanced than anything in the Council fleet. The vessels were sleek and predatory looking, with weapon systems that Kethvar couldn't even identify. Energy readings from their power cores suggested they could operate at combat effectiveness for months without refueling. "How many ships do you have?" Kethvar asked quietly. "In this system, about 800, Reed answered. "Galaxy-wide?" "Well, that would be telling." Dr. Rodriguez led them to a research facility where human scientists were working on projects that seemed like magic. She showed them rooms where gravity could be turned on and off at will. They saw matter transmission systems that could move objects instantly across vast distances. In one laboratory, humans were experimenting with technology that could fold space itself, allowing ships to travel between star systems in minutes rather than weeks. "The quantum tunneling drive was actually our first major breakthrough," Rodriguez explained. "Once we learned to manipulate space-time directly, everything else became much easier." The Council delegation was shown manufacturing centers where humans produced goods using molecular assembly techniques that eliminated waste entirely. They saw energy collection systems that drew power directly from the quantum foam of empty space itself. Agricultural centers produced more food per acre than entire Council worlds, using genetic modification techniques that were centuries ahead of known science. As the tour continued, Admiral Kethvar began to understand the true scope of what he was seeing. This wasn't just one system with advanced technology. This was evidence of a civilization that had surpassed every other species in the galaxy while pretending to be primitive newcomers. Why? he asked finally. Why pretend to be weak when you were stronger than all of us? Reed stopped walking and turned to face the Admiral. Because we learned from history, he said simply. When a new species appears and immediately shows superior technology, what happens to them? Kethavar thought about it. Usually the established powers would either try to control the newcomers or destroy them if control proved impossible. The galaxy had seen it happen many times before. So you joined the Council as apparent weaklings, Kethavar said slowly. You let us think we were protecting you while you studied our technology, our politics, our military capabilities. We also genuinely hoped we could work within the existing system, Dr. Rodriguez added. But the Council's demand that we surrender our independence crossed a line we couldn't accept. Reed led them to the station's command center, where displays showed the locations of human colonies throughout the galaxy. There were far more than the 43 the Council knew about. Hundreds of systems glowed with human presence, many of them in regions the Council had thought were uninhabited. The war with the Krillian horde, Commander Zara said with sudden understanding. You weren't struggling to survive. You were studying them. Every battle taught us something new about galactic military doctrine, Reed confirmed. The Krillians were actually quite helpful in testing our weapons and training our crews. We're grateful for the experience they provided. Admiral Kethavar felt his worldview crumbling around him. Everything the Council believed about the balance of power in the galaxy was wrong. Humanity wasn't a client species in need of protection. They were a superpower that had been hiding in plain sight. What happens now? He asked. Reed walked to a communication console and activated a galaxy-wide broadcast system. Now we stop pretending, he said. The galaxy is about to learn what humans can really do when we stop holding back. The message that went out to every inhabited world was simple, but terrifying. Humanity was offering a new choice to every species in the galaxy. They could join a voluntary alliance based on mutual respect and shared benefits. They could remain independent with human protection against external threats. Or they could continue following the Council's failed leadership and face the consequences alone. As Admiral Kethavar listened to the broadcast, he realized that the galaxy would never be the same again. The age of Council dominance was ending, and the age of humanity had begun. 6 months had passed since Admiral Kethavar returned to Council space with news that shattered everything they thought they knew about humanity. The galaxy was falling apart faster than anyone could have imagined. What had once been a stable system of government was now crumbling like a house built on sand. The first sign of trouble came from the Outer Rim territories. Without human forces to contain them, the Krillian horde had begun expanding at an alarming rate. Their brutal ships swept through 3 star systems in the span of 2 weeks, destroying everything in their path. The planets Valdris Prime, New Geneva, and Theta Colony were now nothing but radioactive dust floating in space. High Arbiter Vexthon stood in his private chambers on the Council homeworld, staring at reports that grew worse by the day. His tall, gray form was hunched with worry, and his usually glowing yellow eyes had dimmed with exhaustion. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, which had controlled galactic politics for over 2 centuries, was struggling to maintain order. The Valorian Republic has officially withdrawn their fleet from joint Council operations, his aide reported nervously. They say they need all their ships to defend their own territory from Krillian raiders. Vexthon crushed the datapad in his powerful grip. The Valorians had been one of the Council's most reliable military partners. If they were pulling back, others would follow soon. What about the Centauri Alliance? They are demanding immediate protection for their trade routes. 3 of their cargo fleets have been destroyed this week. They're threatening to stop paying Council taxes if we can't guarantee safe passage through the outer sectors. The situation was getting desperate. The Council's own fleet was designed for peacekeeping missions, not full-scale warfare against an enemy like the Krillian horde. Their ships were built to break up small conflicts between member worlds, not to fight savage warriors who showed no mercy and took no prisoners. Commander Ryan Pierce sat in his office aboard the human diplomatic vessel Harmony, reviewing requests for assistance that arrived every hour. As humanity's new liaison to non-Council species, he had become one of the busiest people in the galaxy. His desk was covered with messages from worlds begging for human protection. Sir, we have another priority request from the Draconis Confederation, his assistant Lieutenant Katie Burns reported. They're offering exclusive mining rights to their Lithium deposits in exchange for protection against Krillian raiders. Pierce rubbed his tired eyes. The requests were coming in faster than he could process them. Dozens of species that had never shown any interest in humanity were now desperately seeking human friendship. What's the status of the defense grid? Around the Andromedan colonies? Installation is proceeding on schedule. Dr. Rodriguez says the automated defense platforms will be online within 48 hours. The Andromedans are so grateful they've offered to share their bioengineering research with us. It was ironic how quickly things had changed. 6 months ago, the Andromedans had called humans primitive and weak. Now they were begging for human protection and offering their most advanced technology in return. The same pattern was repeating throughout the galaxy. President Jake Morrison stood in the war room of New Earth's Capitol building, studying a holographic map that showed the current state of galactic politics. Red zones marked areas under Krillian control, which were expanding daily. Yellow zones showed regions still loyal to the Council, which were shrinking just as fast. Green zones represented worlds that had requested human protection or were considering joining the new Terran Commonwealth. The situation is accelerating beyond our projections, reported General Patricia Hayes, commander of the Terran Defense Force. We expected some council members to approach us for protection, but not this many this quickly. Morrison nodded grimly. The plan had been to let the galaxy sort out its own problems while humanity built stronger relationships with individual species. But the Council's collapse was happening so fast that innocent worlds were being caught in the chaos. What's your, assessment of our military capacity? We can protect every world that has requested our assistance, Hayes replied confidently. Our automated defense networks can be deployed to any system within 72 hours. The Krillians won't be able to break through them. Secretary of State Carl Johnson entered the room carrying another stack of diplomatic messages. Mr. President, we've received formal requests for Commonwealth membership from the Valorian Republic and the Centauri Alliance. That brings our total to 18 species who want to join us officially. Morrison studied the numbers. 18 species represented nearly half of the Council's former membership. If this trend continued, the Council would be left with only the most stubborn or frightened worlds. What about the Zephyrians? No official contact yet, but our intelligence sources report that some of their regional governors are quietly exploring options. The central government is trying to maintain control, but their outer territories are basically operating independently now. The truth was that humanity had never intended for the Council to collapse so completely. The plan had been to demonstrate human independence and perhaps attract a few like-minded species to form a new alliance. But the Council's weaknesses had been exposed so dramatically that confidence in their leadership had evaporated almost overnight. Commander Pierce received an urgent transmission from the Council world of Nexus Prime. The message came through encrypted channels, which meant whoever sent it didn't want the Council leadership to know about it. He opened the file and found himself looking at Admiral Kethvar's familiar blue features. Commander Pierce, I hope this message reaches you safely. Kethvar began. The situation here is worse than anything we're telling the public. The Council fleet has lost 47 ships to Krillian attacks in the past month. Our defenses are collapsing, and some members are talking about surrendering to the Horde rather than continuing to fight. Pierce leaned back in his chair. The Admiral looked exhausted and defeated, nothing like the proud military officer who had visited human space 6 months earlier. I know the Council treated humanity badly, Kethvar continued. We were arrogant and foolish. We thought we knew better than everyone else, and now we're paying the price for our mistakes. But there are billions of innocent beings on Council worlds who don't deserve to die because of our failures. The message paused as Kethvar seemed to struggle with his next words. I'm not asking for official help, because I know the Council leadership would reject it out of pride. But if humanity has any compassion left for the worlds that once called you allies, please consider what will happen if the Krillian Horde overruns our remaining territories. Pierce forwarded the message to President Morrison with his own analysis. The Admiral was right about one thing. If the Council collapsed completely, the Krillian Horde would control nearly a third of the galaxy. That would make them powerful enough to threaten even human space eventually. Meanwhile, on the remote world of Kepler Station, Three council species were holding a secret meeting that would have shocked both their own governments and the human leadership. Representatives from the Zephyrian Empire, the Torgan Federation, and the Nexus Commonwealth had gathered to discuss a plan that went against everything their societies officially believed. The humans must be stopped before they become too powerful, declared General Thax of the Torgan military. If we allow this Terran Commonwealth to grow, they will eventually dominate the entire galaxy. Ambassador Lyra of the Nexus Commonwealth agreed. Our intelligence suggests that human technology is even more advanced than they've shown us. If we wait too long, they'll be impossible to defeat. The Zephyrian representative, Minister Corva, was more cautious. Any attack on human territory would be incredibly dangerous. Their defensive capabilities are unknown, and they've proven they can disable entire fleets without destroying them. That suggests they have weapons we can't even imagine. Which is exactly why we need to strike now, while we still have a chance, General Thax insisted. The longer we wait, the stronger they become. The three species agreed to secretly pool their remaining military resources for one massive surprise attack on human space. They would target the coordinates President Morrison had originally given to the Council, hoping to catch the humans off guard and cripple their ability to expand further. What they didn't know was that human intelligence services had been monitoring their communications for weeks. Every detail of their plan was already known to President Morrison and his military commanders. As the secret alliance prepared for war, the rest of the galaxy continued its slide toward chaos. More worlds fell to the Krillian horde every day. More species abandoned the Council to seek human protection. The ancient order that had governed galactic civilization for centuries was dying, and something new was being born to replace it. The question was whether that new order would emerge through peaceful cooperation or through the violence that some council members seemed determined to bring to humanity's doorstep. Fleet Admiral Katie Burns stood on the bridge of the Terran vessel Aurora, watching as 1,200 enemy ships approached human space. The secret alliance between the Zephyrians, Torgans, and Nexus Commonwealth had finally made their move. Their combined fleet was the largest military force assembled in the galaxy for over 50 years. But Katie felt no fear as she watched them come. "Admiral, the enemy fleet will reach our border in 30 minutes, reported Commander Lisa Park from the tactical station. They're maintaining attack formation and showing no signs of slowing down. Katie nodded calmly. Human intelligence had been tracking this fleet since it left Council space 3 days ago. Every ship had been identified, every weapon system analyzed, and every possible tactic anticipated. The aliens thought they were launching a surprise attack, but they were actually flying straight into a carefully prepared demonstration. "Signal the fleet," Katie ordered. "All ships are to follow Engagement Protocol 7. No lethal force unless absolutely necessary. We want them alive to tell others what they witnessed here today." The human defense fleet consisted of only 200 ships, a number that would have seemed impossibly small against such overwhelming odds, but appearances could be deceiving, especially when dealing with technology that operated according to principles the attacking aliens had never imagined. General Thax of the Torgan Federation commanded the attack fleet from his flagship Vengeance. He was a veteran of dozens of battles, and his scarred green hide bore witness to his military experience. As he studied the human formations on his tactical display, he felt confident about his chances of victory. "They have less than 200 ships," he told his bridge crew. "Even if their technology is somewhat advanced, numbers will tell in the end. Prepare to engage the moment we cross into their territory." Minister Corva of the Zephyrian Empire watched the human fleet from her command ship and felt less certain than her Torgan ally. Something about the way the human vessels moved through space bothered her. They seemed to flicker in and out of her sensors, as if they were not entirely present in normal space. "Are your sensors detecting any anomalies?" she asked her science officer. "The human ships appear to be phasing between dimensions," came the worried reply. "Their quantum signatures are unlike anything in our databases." Before Corva could respond, the human fleet transmitted a message that reached every ship in the attacking force. Admiral Burns appeared on their screens, her expression calm but determined. "I am Fleet Admiral Katie Burns of the Terran Defense Force," she began. "You have entered human space with hostile intent. You have 30 minutes to withdraw your forces and return to Council territory. "This is your only warning." General Thax laughed at the transmission. 30 minutes? We'll be through their pathetic defenses in 10. All ships prepare for full assault. The Torgan general had no way of knowing that his entire fleet was already surrounded by human vessels that his sensors couldn't detect. Cloaked ships using quantum tunneling technology had taken positions throughout the alien formation, while remaining completely invisible to conventional detection methods. When the timer reached 0, the human response was swift and devastating. The alien fleet suddenly found themselves unable to move as gravity fields locked their ships in place. Their weapon systems failed as electromagnetic pulses disabled their power cores. Their shields collapsed as quantum disruptors tore through their defensive barriers like paper. "What's happening?" General Thax shouted as his flagship's bridge went dark around him. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as his crew struggled to understand what was attacking them. "All systems are offline," his chief engineer reported in panic. "Something is draining our power faster than we can generate it." Throughout the alien fleet, the same scene was playing out. 1,200 warships that had been ready for battle moments before were now helpless hulks drifting in space. Not a single human ship had been damaged, and most of the aliens weren't even sure where the attack had come from. Admiral Burns watched the results with satisfaction. The engagement had lasted exactly 17 minutes, just as the computer models had predicted. Now came the part that would really shock the galaxy. "Begin recovery operations," she ordered. "Medical teams to all disabled vessels. Repair crews to follow. I want every alien ship restored to full functionality within 6 hours." Commander Pierce monitored the aftermath from his position aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony. His job was to make sure the galaxy understood exactly what had happened here today. Camera drones recorded every detail as human medical teams rushed to treat injured aliens while human engineers worked to repair the damage their weapons had caused. The sight of human doctors saving alien lives while human technicians fixed alien ships sent a message that was more powerful than any weapon. Humanity could have destroyed the entire attacking fleet in minutes, but instead they chose to show mercy and compassion to enemies who had come to kill them. General Thax found himself in the medical bay of his own ship, being treated by a human doctor named Sarah Williams. The young woman worked efficiently to heal the burns he had suffered when his command console exploded. Her hands steady and professional despite the fact that he had been trying to kill her people just hours before. "Why are you helping me?" he asked in confusion. "I came here to destroy your worlds." Dr. Williams looked up from her work with a gentle smile. "Because that's what we do," she said simply. "We help people who need help even if they don't always deserve it." The same scene was repeated throughout the alien fleet. Human crews worked tirelessly to restore power, repair hull damage, and treat injured personnel. They shared food and medical supplies freely, asking for nothing in return except that the aliens remember what they had witnessed. President Morrison used the global communication network to broadcast a message to every inhabited world in the galaxy. The footage from the battle showed the overwhelming superiority of human technology, but it also showed the restraint and compassion that defined human values. Today, forces from 3 council species attacked human territory, with the intention of destroying our civilization. Morrison began. "They brought 1,200 ships against our 200. They came to kill our families and burn our worlds, but we chose a different path." The broadcast showed human ships effortlessly disabling the attacking fleet, followed by images of human personnel risking their own safety to save alien lives. The contrast was striking and deliberate. "We could have destroyed every ship in that fleet," Morrison continued. "We could have left their crews to die in the cold vacuum of space. Instead, we chose to show them that strength without compassion is just another form of weakness." The president's message then shifted to address the broader galactic situation. Humanity was offering a new choice to every species in the galaxy. They could join the Terran Commonwealth as equal partners, with full autonomy over their internal affairs and access to advanced human technology. They could remain independent with guaranteed protection against external threats. Or they could continue following the failed leadership of the Council. "The terms are simple," Morrison explained. "Mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and cooperation for the benefit of all. We ask for no tribute, demand no submission, and impose no conditions except that our partners treat others with the same respect they expect to receive." Minister Corva sat in her repaired command center, reading reports from her crew about the human technology they had witnessed. The quantum tunneling drives allowed human ships to appear and disappear at will. Their weapons could disable entire fleets without causing permanent damage. Their medical technology could heal injuries that would have been fatal with council medicine. "Send a priority message to the Zephyrian High Command," she ordered. "Tell them that any further military action against humanity would be suicidal. We're dealing with a civilization that's centuries ahead of us in every important field." Similar messages were being sent from ships throughout the fleet. The alien commanders who had come to destroy humanity were now unanimous in their recommendations that their governments seek immediate peace with the Terran. Commonwealth Admiral Burns supervised the final phase of the operation as the last disabled alien ships were restored to full functionality. The entire enemy fleet was now operational again. Their crews fed and their wounded healed. It was time for them to return home with their message. "You are free to go," she transmitted to the alien commanders. "Your ships have been repaired and your crews are healthy. We bear you no ill will for this attack. We understand that fear makes people do things they might not otherwise consider." General Thax received the transmission in stunned silence. His massive fleet had been effortlessly defeated. His crews had been saved from death and his ships had been repaired by the very people he had tried to destroy. The humans were simply letting them go home as if nothing had happened. "Why?" he asked over the communication channel. "Why show us such mercy?" Admiral Burns smiled on the screen. "Because we want the galaxy to understand what the Terran Commonwealth stands for. We're not conquerors or tyrants. We're just people who believe that cooperation works better than domination." As the alien fleet began its journey back to Council space, every crew member carried with the 2 years had passed since the failed attack on human space, and the galaxy barely resembled the place it had been before humanity walked away from the Council. The Terran Commonwealth now stretched across nearly half of known space, encompassing 37 different species who had joined voluntarily. Each member world prospered under the new system, enjoying technologies and freedoms they had never imagined possible. Ambassador Nicole Foster stood in the observation lounge of Olympus Station, humanity's new mobile capital that could travel anywhere in the galaxy within hours. Through the massive transparent walls, she watched construction crews from a dozen different species working together to build the largest shipyard the galaxy had ever seen. Humans worked alongside Andromedans. Valorians labored next to Centauri, and even former Council loyalists had found their place in the Commonwealth's cooperative structure. "The Draconis delegation has arrived for the trade negotiations," her assistant, Lieutenant Mark Chen, reported. "They're very interested in our atmospheric processing technology." Nicole smiled as she watched a Draconis transport dock with the station. 6 months ago, the Draconis Confederation had been one of the Council's most loyal supporters. Now they were practically begging to join the Commonwealth after seeing what member worlds had accomplished with human assistance. President Jake Morrison entered the lounge, carrying a datapad filled with reports from across Commonwealth space. At 62 years old, he looked younger than he had when humanity first left the Council. The stress of managing a failing relationship with an incompetent galactic government had been replaced by the satisfaction of building something better. "The quarterly productivity reports are remarkable," he told Nicole. "Every Commonwealth world is exceeding their development targets. The Andromedan bioresearch facilities have made breakthroughs that will benefit medical science for centuries. The Valorian energy stations are producing enough clean power to supply half the galaxy." Dr. Elena Rodriguez materialized in the lounge using the station's new matter transmission system. At 55, she had become the most famous scientist in the galaxy, after developing technologies that seemed to violate the known laws of physics. Her latest project was so ambitious that even other humans had trouble believing it was possible. "The dimensional gateway is ready for its first test," she announced with barely contained excitement. "We can open a portal to the Andromeda galaxy whenever you give the authorization." Morrison set down his datapad and stared at her. Even after years of witnessing human technological miracles, the idea of traveling to another galaxy instantly still seemed like fantasy. "Are you certain it's safe?" "As certain as we can be without actually testing it," Rodriguez replied. "Our computer models show a 97% probability of success. The exploration ships are ready to make the crossing." The Dimensional Gateway project represented the culmination of human scientific achievement. If it worked, The Commonwealth would have access to entirely new galaxies filled with resources and potential new allies. If it failed, they would lose 3 of their best exploration vessels and their crews. General Patricia Hayes arrived in the lounge wearing the new Commonwealth military uniform that replaced the old Earth designs. As commander of all Commonwealth Defense Forces, she oversaw military units from dozens of different species who had integrated seamlessly into human command structures. The Krillian situation has been completely resolved, she reported. The automated defense platforms have contained them within their original territory. They can't expand beyond the barriers we've established, but they're not being attacked either. It's a humane solution to a difficult problem. The Krillian horde had been the galaxy's greatest threat for decades, but human technology had neutralized them without resorting to genocide. Massive defensive stations surrounded Krillian space, preventing them from expanding while allowing them to continue existing within their own borders. It was exactly the kind of solution that defined Commonwealth policy. Commander Ryan Pierce joined the group carrying news from the remnants of Council space. As head of Commonwealth Foreign Relations, he maintained contact with the few worlds that still refused to abandon the old system. His reports painted a picture of continued decline and growing desperation. High Arbiter Vexthan has been overthrown by his own military, Pierce reported. The new Zephyrian leadership is requesting immediate talks about joining the Commonwealth. They're offering to share all their remaining technology in exchange for membership. Morrison wasn't surprised by the news. The Council had been dying a slow death for months as world after world abandoned the failing organization. Only the most stubborn leaders had continued trying to maintain the old order, and even they were finally admitting defeat. What about the other Council holdouts? Nicole asked. The Nexus Commonwealth dissolved last week, Pierce continued. Their member species are all applying for Commonwealth membership individually. The Torgan Federation is split between those who want to join us and those who want to remain independent. Only about 12 worlds are still refusing all contact with us. The transformation had been more complete than anyone had imagined possible. The galaxy that had once been controlled by the rigid hierarchy of the Council was now mostly organized around the voluntary cooperation principles of the Commonwealth. Trade flowed freely between worlds. Technology was shared openly, and conflicts were resolved through negotiation rather than force. Dr. Rodriguez activated a holographic display that showed the current state of galactic civilization. Green areas represented Commonwealth members, blue showed independent worlds with friendly relations, and only tiny red dots marked the remaining Council loyalists. The visual impact was striking. We've achieved something that historians said was impossible, she observed. A galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. President Morrison studied the display with satisfaction, but also with awareness of the responsibilities it represented. The Commonwealth now protected and governed more people than any organization in galactic history. Every decision they made affected billions of lives across hundreds of worlds. The question now is what we do with all this success, he said thoughtfully. The old galaxy is gone and we've built something new in its place. But building is easier than maintaining. General Hayes understood his concern. The Commonwealth military is stronger than any force in history, but our real strength comes from the fact that our members want to be here. As long as we continue to prove that cooperation works better than coercion, we'll remain united. The group moved to the station's main conference room where representatives from the Commonwealth's member species were gathering for their monthly coordination meeting. The diversity was stunning to observe. Beings who had been enemies for centuries now worked together as equals, sharing knowledge and resources for mutual benefit. Ambassador Kethvar of the Andromedan delegation approached President Morrison with a proposal that would have been unthinkable during the Council era. Mr. President, the Andromedan Republic would like to contribute our bioengineering expertise to the Dimensional Gateway project. If we're going to explore other galaxies, we should be prepared for whatever life forms we might encounter. Similar offers came from representatives throughout the room. The Valorians wanted to provide advanced energy systems for the exploration ships. The Centauri offered their mathematical modeling capabilities to improve navigation systems. Even recent members like the Draconis were eager to contribute whatever they could to the Commonwealth's success. Dr. Rodriguez made her way to the conference room's central podium where she activated the real-time display showing the Dimensional Gateway. The massive structure floated in space near New Earth. its exotic matter containment fields creating patterns of light that were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all descriptions, she began with a smile that encompassed every species in the room. We stand at the threshold of a new age for galactic civilization. The gateway before you can open doorways to other galaxies, other universes, other forms of life we haven't even imagined yet. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just governing one galaxy anymore. They were preparing to become an intergalactic civilization that could spread Commonwealth principles across the entire universe. The first exploration mission will launch in 72 hours, Rodriguez continued. 3 ships will cross to Andromeda Galaxy to establish contact with whatever civilizations exist there. If successful, we'll begin the process of extending Commonwealth membership to an entirely new galaxy. President Morrison took the podium as Rodriguez finished her presentation. He looked out at the assembled representatives and saw the future of galactic civilization. Beings who had once been controlled by fear and hierarchy now worked together as partners in the greatest adventure in history. 2 years ago, humanity walked away from a council that saw us as children who needed to be managed, he said. Today, we stand together as equals in a commonwealth that proves cooperation is stronger than domination. Tomorrow, we'll carry that message to galaxies we haven't even visited yet. The president paused to let his words sink in before delivering his final thoughts. The